Okay, well, hey, welcome everyone back to the Black Brain Trust. This is episode 100. I'm your host, Mike, and I'm with my co-facilitators, Lionel and Christian. What's going on?
Hey,
Going on, everybody?
One second.
okay.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right, let's get started. So today is our first Black IT Summit. I think we're gonna run it all weekend. Um, so we're gonna interview each other. Basically, if you look in the description below the video, the docket is there for the questions, and we will engage on those questions, and then we'll open it up for open mic, and anybody can ask anything they want pertaining to IT. So let's start with the questions. Let's get straight into it.
Okay.
All right, I'll start with myself. So question one is, when and how did you get started in information technology? I got started in IT by dabbling with computers. So I was given a old computer, a old 286 or 386. It was a Packard Bell. I used to play Wheel of Fortune and use the five and a quarter floppy disk and stuff like that. And I ended up with a Windows 95 computer years after that, custom built. And basically, I've been building computers ever since then. I've never actually bought a retail based computer. I always had custom built computers because I can actually put them together myself. And I I got into kind of the do it yourself fix it type of deal. So anybody who had problems with their like E machines and gateways and Dells and things like that, I started fixing those myself. And I sold some for profit, and then I fixed others just based on troubleshooting as well. Um, and then I got offered a job in IT, working for quite a few companies back in the day. I think my first job was with AMD, and then after that I went to HP. So I started working for HP, and after HP, um, went to a company called Unisys, and so on and so forth. So um, I got into IT that way, and I've been in IT for probably over 10 to 15 years now, 12 years now. What about you, Christian?
Um, I was doing accounting work when I was a manager at the Bank of Oklahoma, and I was doing people's taxes on the side for extra money. I got me a Easy 135 backup drive to put in my computer, and I took it over to CompUSA to get it installed. They messed up my computer and deleted all of my records.
Wow.
And they just gave me my computer back and they charged me for it.
Mhm.
So I grabbed me a couple at the time idiots books, read up on how to fix the computer myself, and it was just a hobby. I went to a small mom and pop shop called G&H Computers here in Oklahoma, and they had a Pentium 2 motherboard out. And at the time, I was reading a bunch of computer magazines and trying to figure out what else I'm going to add to my computer. and I asked them if they finally made a standard for ATX motherboards with the 2 layers as opposed to the 1 layer that the old Pentium Pros used to have. And they were like so impressed I knew that much that they hired me. And I worked at computers, learned how to build computers. We built about like 50, 60 a day. Had a couple of wholesale customers. They'll buy computers from us and make servers. They would call me back and yell at me saying that like I sold them bad parts, this and this doesn't work. So I told them come pick me up after work and show me what's not working. And I fixed the problem for them. And I was like, okay, see, it's not my product. Not my product was bad. And while I was sitting there, I just asked them, so what is this? And they showed me we're setting up an exchange server, we're setting up a domain. So I sat there and watched them put their stuff together, and I learned how to do networks. Later on, me and my dad set up a small business, putting computers together for people. And my dad got a job at Metro, being the network administrator, because he was the only person at Metro that knew how to shut down the computer without it popping up saying, "You shut your computer wrong." So he got the job doing IT over there. We built all their computers, built all their servers. After a while, I left there. I worked at OSU OKC. I worked for Integris, a hospital here, heart clinic, and now I'm at Bank on it as escalations. I've been in this since '95.
That's cool. Yeah, it's interesting that you talk about the Pentium 2 boards because those are the old BX boards. You know, the 8-bit with the dual socket Celeron socket
Yep,
366. You can overclock that sucker pretty high and for gaming. That was like lethal back then if you had one of those. If you had like a dual Celeron with a TNT2 Ultra with the AGP slot and
the Ultra Raid DMA Raid.
oh
Yep,
yeah, with
I,
the parallel ones. With the what do you call that? The
DG6 motherboard. Yeah,
Sound Blaster sound card. You had to have a Sound Blaster. It couldn't be onboard sound. It had to be 3D sound and Creative Labs Sound Blaster 3D. That was the thing back then. So
yep. That used to actually creep me out. I had like Sound Blaster 16, the 32, and the 64. And the 64, the 3D sound that I had, when I would play Unreal, you can actually hear like the aliens, the monsters like sneak up on you from behind, and I had to swatch my stuff out because it was getting too scary for me when I was
hmm
that young.
yeah, and then you had your SCSI. If you were like a super micro guy, if you had the tie-in boards, the TYAN, the tie-in boards.
Hmm
Those had the onboard SCSI.
I had those, and I had some super micros. In fact, all my servers over at Metro still running since 2000. They're all super micros with but those had the rated SATA drives on it, not SCSIs.
Okay. I think there was a company called Matrox that used to have the Fireball hard drives, and it used to eat your data back then. So
Uh, yep, Maxter.
yeah, yeah, Maxter, right? And Matrox make the video card. Sorry,
Yep.
you're correct about that. I think Maxter got bought by Western Digital.
They got bought out by Quantum,
Yeah,
and then Quantum got bought out by Western Digital.
right, right, right. Yeah, it was very interesting times because it was very analog back then. Like you had to put things together and it had to be right. The jumpers had to be right. If the jumpers weren't right, slave, master, or whatever, it's not gonna boot.
Yep.
Not gonna boot. So
And that's what most of my problems were when I sold parts to wholesalers. They go back. You send me both parts, and I'm like, master, slave. Okay, hard drives are working because nobody wanted to take the time to learn how to put the jumpers on correctly. They would just put on auto select. Like, yeah, that doesn't work. Thing I like about doing computers and stuff back then, about spring, summer, new video games will come out. And then we would play video games all summer long. And then the expansion pack will come out right around Christmas. I was like almost able to set my clock to it. Now people just throw stuff out anytime that they want to when the money's down.
Yeah, back then you had to spend like $2,000 to get a $2,500 to get a good computer.
Yep.
It wasn't cheap. You had DIMM slots, you had SIM slots for your AT motherboards, and then for your ATX motherboards, it had to be dual inline modules, DIMMs. Um, it was just it was a lot. There was a lot because there was a lot of memory compatibility issues and things of that nature. That if it didn't work with this motherboard, it had to be on the approved list and things like that. So,
BIOS updates didn't come out as often back then either.
well, there was only so many components that went to a system, anyways, right? So you only had a certain amount of components that actually were functional. I mean, you couldn't. There was no SLI back then to that extent. I mean, you
Yeah.
had Voodoo.
3DFX. Yeah.
Yeah, you had 3FX's Voodoo, but that was the only thing that can be, SLI'd, right? So Monster 3D. All right, let's get to the next question. So, what is your current role and responsibilities? My current role and responsibilities is I'm a cybersecurity analyst. I basically do incident response. I do policy management, orchestration, vulnerability assessment, threat management, threat analysis, um, threat hunting, threat investigation, mitigation, uh, just about everything that has to do with the protection of digital assets and information risk. So confidentiality, availability, and also I do networks as well. So I do get tagged along with just network responsibilities, but for the most part, everything's in the cloud now. So AWS is my playground, for lack of a better description, of what I'm protecting and what I'm defending for. So
Do you get an AWS degree? I mean, certification?
I do have, yeah, I do have one. It's not anything that's worthy of note. But I do plan on getting my solutions architect. So I mean, but there's this AWS specialty cert for security, but you have to go through the solutions first, solutions architect first.
Yeah, you got to build up to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about yourself, Christian?
Um, I'm escalations. I'm the guy right before you get to the server team. The server team usually builds up the servers. They also do the routers and the firewalls.
Hmm.
Uh, so like they'll go ahead and image out a server, and it's like, hey, this is the such and such app server. The app server will put something like a SQL on it, and then whatever other program that we need to for that server to run. I set those up for the client, test it out, make sure it's working, and then I try to get everything documented to like, this is how I got everything set up. This is how, uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Schedule task run. I get all that set up for the people. Um, and if something's like quote unquote catches on fire, they send me the ticket. I have to try to hurry, spend maybe most of the day trying to get this knocked out and finished for the client before. they lose too much money.
Interesting.
I have a question.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, is there a difference between installing hardware in a business, such as routers, fixing co-worker computers, and actually building out that business's software infrastructure?
Big difference.
What's the because from the outside looking in, it seems like it's the
It's
same
magic.
department. Yeah, and that too.
It's a big difference in when you're talking about switches and routers and networking, wireless networking, things of that nature. That's all network engineering. Um, when you're talking about applications, now you're talking about
Programming.
not so much as
Almost.
programming, but business intelligence and things of that nature fall in fall in that realm, right? Programming, nobody really custom builds anything in house anymore. Everybody pretty much buys everything off the shelf. You know, there was a time when people were using Corel, WordPerfect. But now everybody just uses Microsoft Word. Um, same thing goes for you know, what's the other application that everybody used? People used to use
Lotus Notes.
Oracle. They used to use Oracle and used to use Microsoft SQL, but now everybody who's in the cloud pretty much uses AWS's AWS's database. Not Mongo. I forget the name of it now, but everything is pretty much software as a service now. So there's no real programming happening in the house unless it's API based. You're trying to connect certain applications to other applications through API development. So, and in that regard, there's software programmers there, but they're not they're not writing code from scratch. They're actually just you know interlocking different app interfaces. So yeah. I was going to move on to the next question. What is your favorite OS? I'm a Windows guy. I don't have any particular dog in the fight. I've always been Windows. Everything works on Windows, so I live in a Windows world. I don't see any other reason to jump ship. I know a lot of people like Linux. Linux has its purposes, but if I can't get 99% of what I need to do done on Linux, then it doesn't make any sense for me to prefer it, right? So right now, I have actually left Windows and moved on to Chrome OS. So I'm a Chrome OS guy now. But if you had to ask me for a preference, I would prefer Windows because everything works. But as it stands right now, um, I've left Windows 6 months ago. I think back in June. Yeah, I left back in June. So I made the transition to Google Chrome. So now I'm pretty much married to it now. I get all my services, my applications through software as a service on Google Chrome. Microsoft Office Suite. I have Office 365. I have if I need to go to like something like something proprietary, Citrix actually makes a receiver. I can pretty much pull down all Windows apps into Google Chrome and run it over Citrix receiver. So,
Nice.
what about you,
Uh,
Christian?
I'm still running Windows 10 right now. I like the way it managed memory better than it did on 7.
How
Uh,
much memory you running?
I'm running 64.
Okay.
Um, Thinking about moving up to Threadripper so I can put 128. Uh, I don't. I run a bunch of virtual machines on my computer for my job. I prefer to go ahead and test everything out here at home. So if it blows up, I'm like, yeah, I won't do that at work. Uh, my dad's trying to convince me to just go ahead and build up another server and just have all my VMs running on it. But I keep thinking about the electricity is going to eat up. So I haven't made that move. I need to make that move. I just haven't done it yet. So I'm running a Ryzen 1700, 64 gigs of RAM on it. Like I said, think about moving up to Threadripper. Um, I before that I did play with Mac OS, but when Apple said my device was obsolete and they quit supporting it and I couldn't get online, I couldn't do any of my work, I knew I'm not ever touching Apple again.
Mm.
And FreeBSD is probably my favorite version of Linux. I was able to get most of everything I needed working on it. That's pretty much it I got on OSs.
Now, question: how many OSs are there? And and like what? Yeah, yeah. How many different OSs are there? That so I just know it maybe four, maybe off the top of my head.
Like four major companies, but like you got server and then you got client on the Windows side. So you still got 7, 8, 8.1, and Windows 10 for the client side. That's four. Right now, I think they're still supporting 2008 server, 2008, 12, 12R2, 16, and 19 still in beta right now, but it's right around the corner. So there's another five. So that's nine right there just on the Microsoft side. Then Mac is what? I don't know how many they're still supporting in Mac or if everybody's got the upgrade for free. And then there's tons and tons of Linuxes, and only Unixes that I know of is FreeBSD, OpenBSD, and NetBSD. I think NetBSD is what they put on like or that's was what they used to put on like the PlayStation 2 and the PlayStation 3.
Yeah, I would say that Google Chrome actually enables Google Chrome OS actually allows you to enable Linux ports for compatibility with Linux applications, as well as it still has a command line in the back if you so want to use it. So it does have its caveats and things of that nature, but for the most part, it does 99% of what I need to do.
Cool. Roger that.
All right, let's move on to the next question. Which programming languages do you know? I know of, I don't even want to say it's a programming language. I think that it has more to do with, I think command line is probably the most basic that everybody should know. Um, I'm there. Python, I would say Bash is probably my next. I'm
Sure.
not fluent. I'm not fluent in Bash, but I know Python, some Python as well, but I'm not fluent in Python at all. I don't use it every day, so it's not my daily drivers of linguistics. If that makes any sense. What about you, Christian?
It's useless now, but Visual Basic 6.
Mhm.
uh, Bash, I'm pretty good with. I'm not gonna like brag. Uh, Playing a little bit more with I don't know if you want to call it programming or not, but PowerShell, and still playing with Python.
See, the thing about programming is that it has to be applicable to your everyday life, right? If it's not your if it's not a part of your roles and responsibilities, it's not. You really don't need it, right? It's like a person who speaks Spanish comes to a predominantly English country. They have to learn the language, but so there, I know some people who have come to this country who used to speak, whose family speaks Spanish, but the kids don't because there's no reason to use it, and there's nowhere else to use it, right? So the kids don't speak Spanish; they speak English, but the parents still speak Spanish. So that you have that sort of dichotomy in IT, where it is if I'm an IT manager, I don't need to know Python because I'm not writing code. I'm managing a team. Um, Same thing goes for cybersecurity. If you're busy, tracking down bad guys, you're not really focused on writing code.
Yeah.
It's not your everyday responsibility. So, or your daily responsibility. So, I think you should have an understanding of the mind structure. There should be some kind of literacy that you can point out something that's wrong from just a glance, but you shouldn't be required to actually go out and write code because back in the day, you go back 10 and 15 years ago, you had dedicated programmers in IT.
Hmm.
It's not so much anymore. Everybody's kind of required to actually write write code now, but back in the mid 2000s, early 2000s, you had dedicated software programmers and things of that nature, or what they call software engineers. Now you don't have that. Everybody pretty much writes code in some way, some way or fashion. Whether it's Bash or whether it's SQL or something to that effect. So
Yeah. One of my certifications I took INET Plus. And INET Plus was just like, okay, can you look at this HTML and tell me what it is? Okay, can you look at this JavaScript? And it was like, I just had to get it just so that job I had at the time, they knew I could troubleshoot it in case, hey, such and such is messed up. Okay, well, this and this part of the code on line blah 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 looks messed up. Give that back to such and such and have them take a look at it.
yeah, and that's the thing. Like, it's interesting that you bring up HTML because a lot of people don't even know how to design their own web page because they don't know the code.
Yeah.
Can't really bash people for that now. In terms of the IT world, I don't. I mean, there was a time when Macro Media, before they got bought out by Adobe, they used to have something called Dreamweaver and what do you call that? Fireworks.
Yeah.
They used to have all these applications that help you write and build code, HTML code. Now you don't see that stuff anymore. Where's the last time you seen an HTML application that for building websites? You don't see that anymore.
Nope. It's all drag and drop now.
Yeah, I personally think that that's where the market is going to go. Right? I think Python. You'll see something like PaaS, like or Pies or something like that, like Python as a service, where you just kind of drag and drop your Python objects and it creates the code, right? I think that's where the market is going to go.
Okay.
Yeah, you all pretty much answered the question I was going to ask about what code should one learn, and you're saying it depends on what you're doing on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, there's some guys who are Java. They're committed to Java. Some guys are committed to C plus plus, C sharp, and what do you call that? Python now. And now Python has pretty much superseded all of those other languages because it's actually very usable. It's very user friendly if you take the time to learn it. I just saw a program for Cyber Monday from Code Academy, and they'll teach you Python in 25 days. So that goes to show you where the market is going.
Did you ever take a boot camp?
I've taken boot camps in the past.
What's your opinions on those?
Boot camps work well if you already have the literacy aspect down. You have to have a good understanding of what you're actually going into. The thing about boot camp is that people try to use boot camp to
Completely learn it from scratch.
not try to cram it down their own throats, and it doesn't really work that way. You have to go into boot camp having the core fundamentals of what you're trying to get into, and the thing is, boot camp is basically a drill. They're basically drilling you, and you can buy boot camps now. On your Android Play Store, there's boot camps on there. But traditional boot camps actually ran you through drills. and it's very expensive. You know, back in the day, that was like $3 to $5,000. I think it's still that way to today, with
Yeah,
stands.
I've seen some like 8 to 10.
Yeah, it's profitable because the government's paying for it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm an old fashioned guy. I like to pick up a book, especially a physical book, and actually highlight and you know, just go just work through the chapters. I spend, you know, 90 minutes a day in a book, if I'm cramming for exam, if I'm trying to study something.
Yeah.
Anything more than that, you're kind of melting your brain at this point. You start to, you know, go loopy and whatnot, and you can't really grasp anything after 90 minutes. Your attention span is gone.
Well, I was getting all my certifications back in the day. Like you, 90 minutes a day, uh, Sunday through Friday. And when I was younger, still living with my mom and dad,
Mhm,
dad would not go to sleep on Saturdays.
mhm.
He would just stay up and then like whatever he had to do that week, he would like study it, write the stuff down, take notes. So I got to the habit of like from like 9 o'clock at night to like 6 in the morning, just grilling through whatever I was trying to learn. At the time, I was doing like a certification a month until I just got like completely burned out and couldn't do anymore.
You know what's weird about the certification is that a lot of what you're learning on the certification is not really done in your daily
No,
responsibilities at all.
no,
And it's their way, the Microsoft way, or no way at all.
right.
So you may have a particular way of you know, of handling the incident, and you know, in terms of Windows and whatnot. How would you get to the control panel and things of that nature? I just hit, you know, the CTRL plus R. You know, that brings it up for me. But for these guys, you know, they say it has to be through these steps, and if it's
Hmm.
not through these steps, then it's wrong. And I'm like, that's not fair. That's
Yeah.
unrealistic to think that everybody does it the Microsoft way, because I've never seen anybody do it one simple way. There's always more than one way to skin a cat, and I feel like those certifications actually, you know, they
Hinder that.
yeah, they're not realistic. They're not
Mm-mm.
realistic at all.
When
The
I was
MC, I
teaching,
remember I remember a lot of guys were studying for the MCSC. They come up with the MCSC Bible, and it was so thick, like you know, War and Peace, and you see guys trying to read through it. And I'm like, dude, there's no way in the world that could be entertaining to you.
teaching at OSU, we had the exact same thing. It was like, okay, how do you get a control panel? No, that's wrong. You're supposed to click start, search, type in control panel. Like, no, no, dude. If they can bring a control panel, I'm good. How do you like highlight this and put it in bold? Some people prefer the shortcut way. Some people prefer to click on everything. Uh, I went out for the Windows 7 certification 3 times and failed it 3 times. They would want you to do everything, like running services on, like an actual server on Windows 10. I was like, there's no way in the world anybody would do this. One of the questions I remember was, you and your 4 friends are going to the seminar. You're the only one that has a cell phone card in your laptop. Now, through command line, PS exec connect to everybody's computer and have them use your computer as a router to get on the internet. At the end of the test, at the end, you get to put a comment on certain questions you don't think is fair, and I just put down, I got a cell phone, I can click on hotspot, I can tell everybody the password's this. Why would I ever want to like quote unquote hack into my friend's computer to change how he gets on the internet through PS exec?
Oh, it was brutal, dude. It was brutal back then. I mean, back then they in the days they used to have something called your PCMCIA slots, and you used to have the ability to put you know, these 56K ISDN um
Modems on it.
cards in there. Yeah, you had cell phone cards back then, CDMA cards, GSM slots, GSM cards, so slots in there. So you could do a lot of things back then, but people weren't really that that was nation state type of attacks. That wasn't your average hacker. Your average hacker was trying to bring down a website, or they were trying to compromise passwords on a website or something to that effect. But they weren't trying to literally break into someone's trying to compromise someone's computer that way.
Yeah.
That was unheard of. That's when they start talking about that, they're talking about APT, advanced persistent threats. So anyways, let's move on to the next question. Who is or was your mentor for IT? Um, I had quite a few guys. Uh, I think going along the way, starting from the time I started building computers, I met a few guys that were working at Oracle, and they were DBAs. Back then, everybody was an Oracle DBA, and they made a lot of money back then. So that's what got me, motivated. But I had my managers. Most of my IT managers were my mentors. So they were the ones who kept me on track, and they always did quarterly meetings, one-on-one meetings, and say, well, what are you doing now? What's your goal and things of that nature. So they kind of put me through the paces.
All right. Do you mentor anybody now?
I do. So in NISB, I did my mentorship last week or a couple weeks ago. So
Cool.
yeah, I
Um,
mentored about maybe 7 to 8 guys just the last week, last couple weeks. So
all right. Do you dedicate so much time one on one to each one, or do you meet up in a group?
it was a group. It was a group.
Okay. All right. Pretty much the same. Some of my managers, yeah, were like really good mentors. Um, I had a couple of CIOs as good mentors. My father, of course, and my Python teacher. Uh, get his name right now, Damon. I've had a few. Right now, yeah, I'm doing a mentoring for a couple of kids. Uh, Pretty much everything, not just IT, just a whole bunch of other stuff too. Uh, Try to get them to field, try to get them to explain. Uh, got a couple of kids I actually took in as interns while I was working at one of my other jobs and helped them find some jobs. And we usually meet up Friday after work and go out to get some pho, Vietnamese soup, and we sit down and talk. And like now, most of the time we're talking about like they're younger. They're like, I don't understand corporate politics. So I was like, yeah, just here's how you handle this situation. Here's how you handle that situation. So I try to get back.
That's good that y'all mentor other young men. Though. Yeah, that's outstanding.
Uh,
yeah, in IT, I know what happens is the last maybe 10 and so years, um, they've been forcing senior level guys to work with junior level guys. So that's typically how it works. There's in Boston, and I think it's probably a part of the whole entire East Coast now. There's something called Year Up, YEARUP. So what Year Up is, it's a 1 year program that gets black and brown people into information technology through apprenticeship and college credits. So they partner with certain colleges that allow impoverished black and brown people to actually get into the market that way, uh, that they wouldn't have gotten into traditionally. So that sort of area of mentorship and things like that has come about the last maybe 10 to 15 years, and now it's like almost commonplace for corporations to actually pair you up with people, especially with the whole leaning program with uh, Sandberg. What's her name? From Facebook. So she's made that pretty popular.
Okay. I just didn't want anybody else to fall down the same holes I did, so I reached out to people.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to the next one. Which modern technologies pique your interest right now? Modern technologies. I'm a big fan of mobile. So tablets and smartphones. I'm a big fan of those because of the portability and the power it has. If you go back to like early 2000s with Windows Mobile, 2003, um, Nokia, feature phones, like the Engage and stuff like that, and Blackberries. I was a big BlackBerry guy back in the day.
Blackberry or Crackberry? Which one?
It's all the same. It's all the same because BlackBerry was a whole entire job in itself. You had to manage the BlackBerry server, Bez, and then you had to actually manage the devices in the field and stuff like that. So that was a job in itself. But that's that portability of technology was actually where I it's what the current technology that I'm looking at now is that. So
I'm still a hardware guy.
mhm,
It amazes me that AMD is putting out these computers with this many cores.
mhm.
I'm wondering, like, okay, what are y'all planning to do with this much power? And to think, okay, Verizon processor, which I'm using, and I run like maybe 20 virtual machines on my workstation. I don't have much of a problem with anything. That's for the basic user. The Threadripper was supposed to be for people doing work like me. I was like, I can afford that right now, and that's a whole lot of cores. And now their server level stuff has twice as many cores as the Threadripper. I'd like to know why they're putting out so much power, not complaining, so cost effective.
Mhm.
Because like used to be if you had like this strong of a computer, you can do this type of work in Photoshop. Now, basic stuff can pretty much do some of the most powerful stuff you can do in Photoshop. Or you can just put like a decent GPU if you don't have that much processing power.
Yeah, because Windows 10 actually takes advantage of any piece of hardware that's there.
Yeah.
Before it wasn't like that. Windows 7, Windows
Oh god, no. Vista.
no, not Vista. Windows XP. It didn't really take like you had Aero Glass.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm hearing some feedback in the background. Um, you had Aero Glass, but you didn't have full 3D hardware usage, right? So no 3D acceleration. If you had a decent 3D graphics card with direct 3D drivers, then it pretty much took advantage of it. And back in the day, if you would, there was a big fight between OpenGL versus Direct 3D, who was going to win the battle, and we see who won that battle. But now you're starting to see a resurgence of OpenGL in the mobile world because you don't use Direct 3D.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that fight.
Hmm.
Now, question: what's the purpose of you being more of a mobile guy?
Because most enterprises have become portable now, mobile first. So there's a lot of iPhones and stuff like that. That everyone's pretty much married to an iPhone. CEO says he wants an iPhone. Everybody gets an iPhone now. But nobody gets their iPhone until he gets his. But that's the sort of market that's being driven, right? CEO says he likes the iPad. You better have an iPad ready for him. So now everybody focuses on iPads now. One of the companies I used to work at had bought 1,200 iPads. So if you're wondering where Apple gets their sales and revenue from, it's because that's what's driving it.
and how
Wow, I
much
did not
more,
know that.
and think about how cheap it is to get a phone and a tablet.
Yeah, relative to a like a MacBook or a full desktop, right? If you go back to like the HP Z workstations or the IBM workstations, the I forget the name of those workstations. Um, Intelli something. I forget the name of those workstations, but and you also had your Dell Power series, right?
Yeah.
Precision for the laptops, and then you have Power for the desktops. You don't really need those anymore. Last corporation I was working at, they didn't have any desktops. They all use laptops. They all use iPads. They all use Microsoft Surface. Um, I know you're gonna have to mute yourself, please. And they all and prior to that, they used to use Blackberries. So Blackberry was the thing.
Yep.
So we knew that you were going to move into that market up until the iPhone came out, right? You started to see that stuff wane by 2011, 2012. They started getting rid of Blackberries, and everybody started adopting the iPhone, and then uh, people started adopting Samsung Galaxy Android phones by 2015. So you started seeing this shift. Um, Now you have Google putting out the Pixel. You see more Chromebooks now than what you saw 2 or 3 years ago. They all pretty much run all your applications now. No real reason to be giving out expensive laptops to contractors and things of that nature because people lose laptops. You know, I was at one of the places I used to work at. A guy used to come in every morning, make his little coffee, his ice coffee or whatever it is, and every time he would put his coffee next to his laptop, he would drop the ice cubes in like a basketball into it. Hot coffee spills out onto the keyboard. No laptop no longer works. Opening up tickets. You know the amount of labor it costs to actually fix it was superseding the cost of the laptop. It was the best. So what I'm saying is that's the sort of area of trajectory where the market is going. That everybody wants laptops now because it's portable. Um, you have snow, inclement weather that forces people to work from home. Other reasons why they work from home remotely. No one really needs to come into the office anymore.
Mm-mm. Pretty much do everything on your phone.
Yeah, almost.
Yep.
Yeah, if you have BlackBerry bought it now, but they have what's the company not Mobile Iron, um the guys who do the mail, corporate mail. But basically, you can have corporate mail on your phone, and it was remotely managed by your system administrator, and you know you couldn't drag mail from you couldn't drag corporate mail and put it onto your Gmail. It was impossible to do that. But that's where the market was going. So now you don't have to have a BlackBerry. You could actually have your own personal cell phone, things of that nature. So that's why mobile is important. That's why I focus on it.
What is BlackBerry doing now?
They just bought Silence, so they're mostly a cybersecurity based company, and they also built a blockchain for healthcare.
Okay.
So they are slowly shifting. I mean, they also have an MDM solution, mobile device management, and they bought I can't remember the name of the company now, man. They deal with mail. It's gonna bug me, so I'm gonna look it up right now.
Now, Christian, what's you said you made hardware? It's because of the pure power.
Uh, like I said, because CompUSA messed up my computer, this became a hobby to me. Just reading up how to fix it, how to do everything. So it's almost like a big tinker toy to me.
Hmm.
So like when I look up and I say like, okay, I can get this type of motherboard with this much power. Like I'll like put it together. I'll play a game before watch with the kids I'm mentoring. I'm like, yeah, man, I got 75 frames per second, and that's it. I'm done. I, I'm not gonna like. keep going on and on with it. I'm just like, man, that's incredible, and I'm done. Just so I can see what I can make it do. Uh, think of it like you got some of the guys who like to tinker on their cars, try to make it run faster, add this to it. Pretty much building PCs is like that to me.
Yeah, especially when you get into water cooling.
Yeah.
Because that's how the industry actually got started that way, through hobbying, right?
Hmm.
People used to build them in their garages for fun and things like that. Now, and then it turned into an industry. So
I think New Way calls it enthusiasts.
yes. Hey, what's going on, Keith Claxon? He's a first timer. So the company that BlackBerry bought was good technology. So they were the ones
Yes.
who provided the email. So
Yes. I worked on a couple of those. Yes.
mhm. It was a good purchase by BlackBerry. Good
Yeah.
idea. Anyways, let's move on to the seventh question, which is which emerging technologies do you see becoming game changers? Um, Blockchain for me. I think that's the game changer. Blockchain is serverless computing. The cost of serverless computing is actually incredible compared to traditional. The scalability of it is actually phenomenal. It scales up just based on demand. Um, and blockchain, because it has so many other uses that is unseen to the market today. People don't even realize how robust it is um, for security.
I'm going to go ahead and agree with you on that. I'm still learning it, but very impressed with that. And looking at more and more companies go out to the cloud. I remember a long time ago, it used to be ThinkNet. You'd have a pretty decent PC to be able to do all your work. Then they offload it off to the server. Then they put that back onto the PC. And now they're doing that to the cloud and putting everything outside. So totally blockchain. And I'd like to see how much more we can actually push out to the cloud.
Yeah, I mean, we covered several articles about the cloud since we started doing these hangouts, but um, I think everything, any sort of new business that will require in mobile app will be a tech business. You can't be you can't be a business now without having some form of technology to drive it. Apps um, and cloud. You don't have traditional servers anymore. One of the places I used to work at recently, they didn't have any servers. They didn't even have a switch or a router. All they had was a wireless access point that pointed them to Amazon Web Services. That was it. So the idea of being a network engineer is almost forgotten for the most part. In order for you to be a real network engineer now, you have to know cloud. You have to know Azure. You have to know AWS. You have to know OpenStack.
Yep. Less and less companies are like running their stuff inside now.
Yeah, everything's software as a service. Everything is SaaS. You got IaaS, which is infrastructure as a service, and then you have PaaS, which is platform as a service. And then you mentioned IoT. Just about everything is IoT now. Your Apple Watch, your Fitbit, your Android Watch, your car is, the new cars coming out after 2020 will all be IoT based. Um, your Samsung refrigerators and your LG refrigerators, your smart TV is an IoT device. Um,
Can't remember
oh,
the name, but there's a washer and dryer that's IoT.
Even the
Matter of
stove.
fact,
say that again, Lino.
They have ranges out stoves that are IoT also. You can speak with the smartphone.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
Oh,
gonna have to agree.
you're Go ahead.
But I'm gonna have to agree with you all on the new technology because what I'm learning, I'm seeing you all uh, uh, this gang of notes I got right now. But what they going over right now, it's outside the realm of crypto. You know, the immense possibilities of this blockchain is out there, and this is what people should be retrained in.
Yeah. Um, Same thing with your thermostats. You know, you have your Nest thermostats, your Google Home. All these things are IoT based. You know, they're all sitting on a network, transmitting data in some way, shape, or form, right? So it's just one of those things. You have to see the market for where it's going, and I see the market for emerging technologies being blockchain and cloud. Um, that's where I'd be looking. So, all right, let's move on to the next question. Um, what's next on your career path? What's next on my career path would be it's definitely technology development, right? So focusing on smart cities, smart states, smart continents, just about smart neighborhoods as well on the ground level. So I'm focusing on the IoT aspect of it. I'm already a security person, I'm already an IT person, so I've already traversed those markets, and there's not really anything more I can squeeze out of it from a career perspective. But what I can do is I can take it to the next level and start looking at smart cities, um, and going beyond smart cities. I'm looking at space, right? So one in every three startups is going to be a space startup. So what I'm looking at is taking the game almost to a more advanced level. I don't want to be the person who uses the technology. I want to be the person who drives the technology. So that's what I'm focusing on. Christian.
I was kind of torn. I was thinking about going to that WGU school and try to get my Cisco certifications.
Or
But I
Western
think,
Governors University.
yep. But I think I'm going to start trying to learn some more cloud technologies. I was thinking about going with WGU because every time I get a certification that's on our list at my job, I get a raise.
Hmm.
If I was to go ahead and pay for that school, they give you so many vouchers to take certification tests. And I figured, okay, I can go over there, get my bachelor's degree, and get certified in Cisco. But looking at it more and more, and a whole bunch of the people I talked to here on LinkedIn, I think what to look at the AWS and that Red Hat.
Which part of Red Hat?
Uh, uh, Red Hat Cloud.
Oh, okay. Um, Question number 9. Have you had to deal with workplace racism?
Yes. I'll let you go first.
I bet you would throw me under the bus. Um,
I can go first
yeah,
if you want me to.
yeah, you can go ahead.
Okay. Uh, First computer job. Uh, Bunch of the customers, regular walk in the door customers, didn't want to talk to me or even look at me because I was black. They talked to this other sales guy that was like the owner's buddy and asked him, we want to be able to do this, that, and the other. And I would answer it, but they would think the other guy who knew nothing about it, and he just looked all embarrassed. He was like, "I don't know what to say." I think that was. I was like, "Yeah, I deal with that bullshit every freaking day." Uh, I was actually over a team at one of my jobs. I had 20 people underneath me, and one of these huge company, we had like I'll say about like 12 or 15,000 employees at this company. Uh, got mad because one of the guys, when it was like this black guy, came to my office and said he needed to update and check some stuff on my computer. I have no idea who he is. If you guys are gonna have people like this walk around, you should have security follow them around. And I was like, okay. And he was my guy was like hurt. And I was like, let me go up there, explain to him, talk to him, say, did you show him your badge? Yeah. Okay. And I mean, like this guy sent out an email out to all the execs in this entire company. So I go up there, and the secretary asked me who I was. I was like, hey, I'm in charge of blah blah blah. I just want to know, uh, did my employee do anything wrong? And she just busted out laughing. She's like, yeah, yeah, why don't you just go in there and talk to him about it? He got mad because another black guy talking about his computer stuff. I was like, there's nothing else I could do. I could try. Um, and one of my most recent ones, I went out to this client's business out in this small country town. I got so far, phone died, so I had like no reception out there. And I drive by like this farm, and this lady's like this huge farm. This lady had to like take her truck down the road to check the mail. And as I drove by and she saw me in the car, she grabbed her phone and like followed me all the way to my client's place. And I was like, okay, I want to take the hard road here, but I'm thinking that she probably freaking out there's a black guy in the neighborhood. So I go into the client's place. I introduce myself. Hey, I'm here to do this, that, and the other. And this lady, that was president of this company, starts freaking out. And she's like, how do I know you work for this company? I don't know who you are. I need to call the police. And I flipped out because this lady was outside. She called the police. I knew she called the police. And then this lady's in here freaking out and thinks she has to call the police to verify who I am. And I just start yelling, it's like, why don't you like call my job? They can tell you who I am. Why you gotta call the police who don't know what the hell I am? It's like, oh, yeah, I guess you're right. And the vice president just like flipped out laughing. And he was like, yeah, they told me you was coming. Here, let me show you what we got. And I went back, I fixed their stuff in 15 minutes. And then the vice president's like, man, could you go down to this other branch down here and get this and this fixed for me? It's like, cool, dude. Go down there, completely different, night and day. Welcome me in. They told me, go to this place, eat this food. Do not eat here. Do not eat here. And such will screw you on gas. Big, huge difference. As soon as I got back to my job, uh, I told my supervisor, you don't see anybody that looks like me. You don't see anybody that looks like the Antoine. You don't see anybody that looks like Jax to this branch ever. And he just looked at me like, was it that bad? It's like, yeah, don't ever send anybody else that looks like me, Antoine, or Jax over here. It's like, okay, all right. Those like the bad ones I've had. There's much worse, but those are pretty like the bad ones I've had. Okay, your turn, Mike.
Yeah, I actually stepped away. I missed the majority of the story, but I think I got the gist of it. Um, yeah, my first IT job. I was working on Macs. This is during your the era of the G5 and the cheese grater looking Mac, the polished aluminum one,
Yep.
and we had to move them. And in Massachusetts, you have the unions actually control the movement of furniture and electronics in corporations. So IT people are not responsible for that. So it's kind of a hands-off deal. So they moved this computer and they misplaced it. They had no idea where it was. So the white IT manager actually looked at me and said, "Where's that computer?" And I'm looking at her like, "I don't move computers, so I don't know what you're talking about." She said, "It was here before you got here, before you started working here, so where is it?" Right? So she accused me of actually stealing this big G5 cheese grater looking Mac as if as if, I'm gonna put it in my back pocket. Like, why would I steal a computer that I could actually buy? Like, what's the point of that? Right? And it's a computer that I'm not even fond of Macs anyway, so why would I use it? So push comes to shove after to make a long story short, they wrapped the Mac in the blanket so to prevent it from being scratched, and they put it on the trolley. And they've been looking around all night for this. So the guy who actually moved it, because you tag everything that you move, he found it on the trolley. He's like, "Oh, here it is." And I look at him. She looks at him. I look at her. She looks at me. She walks away.
Don't
So
say
at the end,
apologize, nothing. Just walks away.
right. So during my one-on-one meeting, she was like, "Oh, I grew up a certain type of way," and said, basically, she's saying, "I grew up as a racist. I was taught this. It's not my fault." Right. So that's that's my first racist incident. So.
Man, I can't even think of my first one.
Mm-hmm. I don't have any part, like ones like, oh, this is my favorite racist incident, like that's not. I have no like, I have no measurement, of which
You know,
which incidents were best, like this is the best racist incident I've ever had, I was almost hanging from a tree, that type of deal.
yeah, you don't collect them.
Right. What did Lionel have a question?
My bad. I was laughing about what you just said. I thought I was unmuted. This is my favorite Rick. Um, I don't know of too many people, too many black men in the IT industry to even ask about that specific question. But there's not too many black men in the IT industry, and what we've been talking about on our shows, this industry is where they need to go to because there's going to be plenty of jobs, and if they don't go to it, you're going to be left behind.
So I don't think the issue is so much about having more black people in it, because that doesn't seem to really resolve anything. It seems to be more focused on multiculturalism, or IT is run like a fraternity, and guys use their knowledge and intellectualism to bully other people, which is why Sheryl Sandberg came up with that Lean In program, right? Um, and they're selfish. They don't want to. They don't want you knowing as much or more than they do. They like you being in a position where you have to keep coming to them. So when you see a lot of guys like Dewan Lightfoot or um, Christian or myself come in with all these certifications and knowledge, and it kind of rubs them the wrong way. So you have to earn their graces, right? Um, the problem is white people. Once you diversify the environment, uh, where there's less white people and more non-white people, then that sets the precedent. Because now they can't. Because racism is a group dynamic. And in order for it to be effective, it has to have as many white people participating in it. And if you take away white people's ability to partake in greater numbers, then that kind of rids it kind of rids the environment of that because it's toxic, and you can feel, I know maybe Christian can maybe expound on this as well, but you can feel racism when you're in the office. You can feel people looking at you. You can feel the backbiting and stuff like that, the murmuring and stuff like that. Oh, whoa, look, Christian, you wore a bow tie today. Like, who cares? Like, why
Yeah.
are you commenting on that? Like, you don't have anything else to say?
Depending on how big you are, I'm a pretty big dude. I'm about 280.
Hmm.
They flip out if you just stand up.
Hmm.
I've had people at my job, like from the other side of the room. Hey, I can't get this working on the exchange server. Can you help me? Then I like try to mention them. I was like, you know what, just fuck it. Let me just go over here and just talk to him. And I walk across the room, and you can see like people like looking like, oh God, why is he getting up? And I was like, okay, it's this, that, and the other. And I explain it, and people appreciate the way I'll use analogies or explain stuff to them. But some people, they don't, just because you don't look the norm, they freak out.
They don't take your information seriously, right? So
Mm-mm.
like, let's use Obama for example. Obama being a president really triggered a whole lot of white politicians, right? White male politicians, and they'll say, "Oh, he's a Muslim." In reality, that means he's a nigger,
Yeah.
right? And the same thing goes in IT. For example, I was a couple months ago, I was giving a presentation about I think it was like cloud infrastructure or something like that, and talking about Microsoft making traction with Azure. Right, I think Microsoft is going to surpass Azure by late next year, like quarter four. I mean, Microsoft is going to surpass AWS, and because Microsoft has like 20 something percent of the market now, and I think AWS is declining. It went from like 80 to like 65% this year. And I was giving these numbers, and I was quoting Microsoft, and this guy was so adamant that I was wrong. And I'm scratching my head saying, what exactly are you disagreeing with? Oh, I just don't agree with you. The numbers are right here, buddy. Oh, well, I just don't agree with you. I'm quoting the
No,
article.
no reason. Just
Right, right. They can't accept information coming from black people. They think that it's insufficient. It needs to be questioned. There needs to be some kind of fact check. Google it or something like that. Like they don't accept information from black people being accurate.
keep it tech. You'd like to go ahead and join us. Yeah,
Go right ahead. I thought I sent him the link earlier, but
I got it.
mhm. Same thing in football, right? I mean, Colin Kaepernick takes a knee, and everybody freaks out, but it was actually a soldier who told him to actually do that. So there's this sort of fear factor that white people have about black people expressing themselves or having too much knowledge. You're too uppity. Get out of here. With all that uppityness. So they like the idea of Jay Z or Kanye West. They like the music. They like all of the attributes of being black. But once you start utilizing your ability to express yourself or to intellectualize the conversation, now all of a sudden, um, we really don't want your opinion on this, or we really don't want you talking too much now. You talk too much. We have to put you in a corner, put you in timeout. And it's about bootstrap arguments, right? So they're basically saying, you should work it, just a little bit harder, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. But certifications are bootstraps.
Yeah.
So if I have all of this and you're still giving me shit, then that means that it has nothing to do with bootstrap arguments because you didn't get in here through bootstrapping. You're buddies with this other buddy through nepotism. That's how you got in here. But you want to make bootstrap arguments for everybody else, or you don't like everybody. You don't like the information I'm talking about because it supersedes your knowledge. So now you want to walk away and nullify whatever I'm saying because you don't consider it to be legitimate, despite the fact that I'm quoting straight from the website. You just can accept it, and that's what I'm saying about workplace racism is a group dynamic, and as long as white people are in large numbers, that allows them to propagate and accelerate their intolerance. But you're starting to see more. I shouldn't say more, but you're starting to see a new shift in in workplace culture because a lot of H-1B visas are starting to come in, and you can't really your environment can't function all that well if there's that much toxic energy. So you could do that with black people because black people don't have political power in the office. They're usually tokenized, so there's only one or two black people there, and they're usually separated. With Indian people or people who come on H-1B visas, that might make up 1/3 of your workforce. So if those people feel threatened or they feel uncomfortable in that environment, and those are that's your bread and butter, your programmers, your SQL developers, and things of that nature, and those guys walk on you, you're screwed. Hmm.
My hardest problem I have when you're like mentoring people
Hmm.
and that they flip out on some of the experiences they start getting,
Hmm.
and I really don't know. Sometimes I don't know how to explain that shit to them. Like one of my kids I had, he actually went to an interview, and he's Hispanic, and the guy was like, "No, I'm not hiring you people." Straight up in an interview, he was like, "What am I supposed to say to that?" It's like, you just be happy he was blunt with it, and not to for that company. And I
Right?
said, if I were you, I'll post it up on LinkedIn and say like, "Hey, don't work for such and such because
Oh, you
you
can't
said
do that.
this and this."
No, you can't do that. That's slander. They'll sue you for that. But
Damn.
you're right about them being blunt, and that's good that they're being blunt because what happens when they pull people into an environment like that, they beat up on those people. They bully them. So that it's good that you don't have to actually be in an environment, being a pinata for these lack of a better description, uh, for dealing with these xenophobes.
Yeah,
Basically, what they are, xenophobes. They say the same thing about Indian people. You see like subliminal text in like workplace advertisement. All employees must wash their hands. All employees? Who are you talking about?
yeah.
Who are you talking about? Because in my experience, the people who don't wash their hands the most are really those really the pale face people.
Wait. You said what?
There's like workplace advertisements in place in the environment, and they'll say like all employees must wash their hands. Well, who's not washing their hands?
It, that's crazy.
The fact that you put up a sign that says that
Right.
should be married.
Or what do you call that? Personal hygiene. Right. So one of the places I used to work at before they had deodorant and mouthwash in the bathroom. But who are they sending that message to?
Yeah.
Hmm. Hey, what's going on, Doctor Yaya? It's good to have you here. Um, let's go to the last question. What advice would you give to younger black males entering into the industry today? Go ahead, Christian.
Main thing I have learned growing up, I call it Voltroning. The things I don't know, I find somebody that I can trust, a partner, to help me out with that. I have seen so many of these kids try to do, and there's nothing wrong with it, everything by themselves. And I'm like, dude, you can't do that all by yourself. Get somebody else to help you out. If it's even the exact same thing, putting a computer together, setting up the network, get you a team together. Once you get a team together and you start networking, if one of your buddies can get a job, it's like, hey, they hiring at such and such. I can put a good word in for you. Get your network put together. And it ain't gotta be like I only hang out with hardware dudes. I like, hey, hook up with some programmers, hook with this. If a job opening comes up with anything that you got a couple of skills for that they can help build you up on, do that. Build up your network. That was like probably the most valuable lessons I figured out growing up. And the network I got, almost every one of the kids I've got mentored, every one of them but one, I got them scholarships or grants to go to school if they wanted to go to school. And I got almost every single one of them a job someplace because I know somebody in this field that can help me out with this. So definitely get your network up. That'll help with any industry, not just IT.
Yeah, my one piece of advice um, would be to read. Literacy is fundamental in your progress. So I do a lot of reading, so that's why you see. I mean, a lot of you people listen to this don't see the articles or the emails being sent out, but prior to us creating these dockets, we do a lot of I do a lot of reading. So I choose out of like 2 dozen or so articles that I've read that's going to go on the docket. That's going to make the docket. So I do a lot of reading in order to keep myself very knowledgeable on the market itself because you can't always get the experience, right? You're never going to be an Exchange server admin or a a Cisco network professional, CCNP, if you're not given that opportunity. So the only other method to that is to read up. So I don't recommend anybody go out there and get these big reference books that these big reference books of like MCSC and CISSP. I don't recommend you sit down and read those books. I recommend that you read current events. Current events is what's really going to matter because just today they announced that Marriott was just breached.
Yeah,
Marriott being breached is a huge topic now because how many people use the Marriott, right? So now when I go into these meetup groups and things of that nature, now that's the focus of the discussion. Now I'm up to breast, and now I can actually engage in dialogue with people about current and modern events. And because even when I bring up certain topics, they may not even know it themselves. And for them to see a black guy, a black man, actually know more than they do, that really sets a precedence in the environment. Hey, what's going on? Keep it techie.
What's going on, guys? How y'all doing?
doing good, doing good.
Chilling, brother, chilling.
Yeah, you ready to answer some questions?
Yeah, definitely.
You have anything you want to add?
Oh,
What's going on? What's
if
going
I
on?
if how you doing, man? How you doing?
Chilling.
Hey, well, first off, I just want to say I'm happy to be on. Um, I've been following you guys for a while, and ever since I saw y'all on O'Shea channel or whatever. Anyway, I've been just following you guys, and I've been learning a whole lot from you guys. I'm like y'all, like I probably already said, I'm IT. I've been in the IT field for over 10 years, um, and I do like a little YouTube channel where I just talk about Linux applications and just software, the OS and all that. And
What version of Linux you like?
uh, I've been playing around lately with Arch Linux, which is, I mean, it's just one of those distributions out there, out of the thousands that are out there,
Yeah.
you know. Um, but I actually wanted to tell you guys a story about
Well, before you tell the
I'm
story,
sorry. Go ahead.
before you tell the story, can you go back to the top of the list of questions that we have on the docket and kind of answer it from there?
How'd you get into
Yeah.
IT?
I actually started in IT. I joined the military first. So I'm actually still in the military now, but uh, I got I got into IT after I came back from the military. I came back home. I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I hopped into one of those programs, kind of rip off programs, for profit schools, and got an associate's degree in computer networking. I really didn't know what I wanted to do, so I just did that. But hold on, let me get to the questions. I'm sorry.
Hmm.
All right.
It's right below the video in the description.
Okay.
What are your current responsibilities?
Right now I'm currently unemployed. And before that though, before that I did hold on one second.
Cool.
And I'm sorry about this. I'm like very nervous about being on lives and everything, but
Hey,
We all friends and family here. Let's go.
girl, yeah, true, yeah. Hey, quick
yeah,
question. What
yeah.
branch of the military were you in?
In the army.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm still in the Army Reserves. My current roles and responsibilities, that question, like I said, I'm unemployed, but my last position, I was actually working for a government agency out here in Las Vegas. And I was doing database development, and I built a couple applications for the department I was working for. I did that for a couple months. Um, Knocked out those applications, but I kind of fell into database development or database design when I took a job in Afghanistan. I worked in Afghanistan for what was that, 4.5 years, and I developed the application over there. So that's how I kind of fell into database. I didn't have any knowledge of that. Like I said, I started with computer networking and systems administration. I did all that for a while, and until I fell into the database side.
All right.
Hello.
You went into Linux.
Oh yeah.
What's your favorite?
My favorite is actually Ubuntu right now. Ubuntu, I use that on my server. Um, I have a server that I didn't had for about 10 years, and uh, I've been keeping it going. Just learning, teaching myself new stuff, figuring out the security of it, um, and just playing around with it in general. But my laptop, I have Origin on it. So
Okay. You play with FreeBSD or any of the BSDs?
no, I haven't messed with any of the BSDs.
Don't want to give it a
I
shot, man.
I've a friend of mine has, and I played around on his server. He had free BSD on there. And I just kind of messed around with it, but never got into it too heavy.
Okay. Know any programming languages? You can
Um,
use Bash if you want to. We all did.
yeah. Well, I do. All right. I've dabbled in a lot of different languages. Just I wouldn't say I'm an expert in any of them except for maybe Bash. And I do know some batch scripting, and PowerShell scripting. But as far as like an expert, Yeah, I'm not really an expert. I mean, most people look up Google. You can figure whatever issue you're facing. Somebody on the internet has faced that issue, and they put the problem out there, and somebody came up with a solution to help them with it. So that's
or
what I kind of do.
or YouTube University, one of the two.
Yep, yep,
Um,
definitely.
have you ever like downloaded PowerShell for Linux?
No,
Okay,
nah, I never
I,
messed around with it.
I saw that they exported that. And I was like, okay, I know a whole bunch of diehard Linux guys is not going to put a Microsoft product on their computer.
Yeah,
You know what's interesting about that is that 2016 server is mostly command line now. It
yep,
basically runs just like a Linux server.
yep.
And what's funny about Linux is now it's moving to a more GUI based environment now. Especially that's why Ubuntu is so popular.
Yeah. Uh, Mike, uh, Tony's got a question for you in the chat room.
I just
Uh,
want us to get through these questions because we only have so
okay.
much time. Um,
Sorry.
let keep it techie, get it in for right now.
Uh,
Okay.
did you
who was or is your mentor in
mentor?
IT?
I would say outside of work, my main mentor has been a friend I met out here in Las Vegas when I first lived out here. He's the one that actually introduced me to Linux. Like I said, I had that server background, networking background. So I learned all that through school, and then once I took on a job out here, he's been mentoring me ever since. And actually, we mentor each other because um, I have I don't know. I've always worked towards like certifications. I have some CompTIA certifications, uh, but he, has kind of a record, so he can't get into the sector that I've been in because of military security clearances, all that good stuff. But we kind of mentor each other. By I teach him um, well, not teach him, but give him advice on like certifications he could probably get because you don't have to have a degree in order to get into IT. And I'm pretty sure you guys have said that on this panel. The certifications are kind of the go to really to get your foot in the door. And a lot of I know with the government for sure because they require certain certificates. Um, but yeah, that's who's mentoring me.
Do you have your Linux Plus?
No, I don't, and I just been pushing it off um, because it's not needed. It wasn't needed at the time um, for the government contracts that I worked on. They mainly focus on Security Plus. As long as you had Security Plus and probably Network Plus or A Plus, all that good stuff. I think Security Plus is the minimum to get in the government sector.
Yeah, Security Plus is level 3 IAT, Information
Yeah.
Assurance Technology.
Yep.
Um, yeah, nobody really looks for Linux certifications unless you're going to be a Linux admin. So
Yep.
the most popular Linux certification would be Red Hat Certified System Administrator and RECE Red Hat Certified Engineer.
Yep.
If you have either one of those, that's at least 120 out the gate. So
Yep.
because and the reason why I'm bringing this up for people in the chat, Linux Plus is a question based certification. So the exam is based on questions, whereas Red Hat's certification is actually performance based. So if you brick that box, you failed.
Yeah. Uh, there's a couple of command lines for like bash, setting up cron jobs, and such and such needs its permissions. Type this in. That's it. But it's not like actually virtually going to a box and doing everything.
Yeah, it's kind of scenario based.
Yep. All right.
All right. So the next question is, Which modern technologies pique your interest right now?
Actually, you guys have me interested in blockchain. So I've been doing a little research and watching the videos you guys put up here about the blockchain and just new technologies is coming from that. So I was actually watching a video on Netflix the other day. Well, yesterday. It was about. It was mainly about Bitcoin and the blockchain. It was just talking about how the blockchain technology is, going to be the next wave. So um, that's one thing I've been looking into.
Hmm. Hmm. And which emerging technologies do you see becoming the game changers?
Um, I would say the blockchain, because um, I don't know. To me, it looks as though that's gonna, take over the way our financial system works for the future. So, um, I mean, it's definitely a place where you will want to, get into if you get into IT or look into, you know.
All right. So the next question after that would be, what's next on your career path?
Um, Next, I'm actually just looking to get some type of permanent position. I've been stuck in contracting,
Contracting
and
is good.
yeah, contracting is good, but um, it's no stability. That's the way I see it, and that's been my experience. Like it was great while I was overseas. I worked 4.5 years in Afghanistan, and I was safe behind the desk all the time. I wasn't in the middle of anything, but um, every I would say 6 months or so, they were trying to figure out if the contract was going to continue or uh, working with the military to try to see um, if a company was going to end up having to take over. If they have to renegotiate the contract. I don't know if you guys know how all that worked, but the constant stress of not knowing if you're gonna have a job or not in the next 6 months is, to me, not worth it, in my opinion, especially when you got a lot of people depending on you, your family and everything. So I did it for 4 years, stacked up my bread, and then came home, and it's just been tough trying to get into the, I don't know, corporate environment. In my opinion, I was able to get one job for about 2 years, um, working as a financial systems analyst um, here in the States, and that worked out great. But I ended up right back into contracting um, because I got laid off of that position. Um, but contract, I don't know. It seems I want to get into a permanent type of position. That's my goal. My goals currently is to get back into some type of, I don't know, corporate environment so I can move up and get away from this contracting work.
Well, let me give you some advice as somebody who does a massive amount of contracting. There is no such thing as permanent work.
Yeah,
Everybody's temporary.
yeah.
Everybody's temporary. And the reason why you're seeing so much contract work come up is because that's where the market is going. There really is no reason to have FTE anymore, which is full-time employment. Everything is
Hmm.
LTE now. So you got to be able, as an IT person, you have to be able to adapt to market shifts,
Hmm.
because technology changes usually every 3 years. Because that's why there's so much in corporate. That's why there's a 3-year warranty on your endpoint devices, your desktops, your laptops, stuff like that, because the technology is changing already. So you got to be able to adapt to those ever changes. So that's why we talk about blockchain on this hangout, on the Black Brain Trust, because that's where the market is going. So you got to be able to get one step ahead. Nobody really has um, that sort of knowledge and skill set right now. So
Hmm.
you can write your own meal ticket at this point. I had a job opportunity come by maybe about a month or so ago from New York, and they was looking for blockchain solution architects, 150K a year.
Wow.
I don't know enough about blockchain to actually take on a responsibility like that, but to have somebody call me and say, um, we want to interview you about blockchain. This is a FTE role, but it's also contract as well. So 6 month to full time. But what I'm saying here is that that's the way the market is going. They don't really need people to be there 100% of the time. So
Mm-hmm.
I would just suck it up
Yeah.
and just accept that's just what the market is. Pair yourself up with either Robert Half or one of these reputable firms, and they're gonna look out for your best interest too, because if you're not eating, they don't eat either.
Mm-hmm.
So it's in their best interest to always find you the next opportunity. It's in your best interest to keep your skill set up, get that certification. Um, keep coming back to the brain trust and soaking up the game. Let's move on to the next question. Um, have you had to deal with workplace racism?
Yes. Well, it was one issue that happened while I was overseas. Somebody, I guess, went into a secure area that wasn't supposed to be there and actually took something, or in I would say government facilities or whatever. Like when you're messing with um I'm trying to think of how to word this, like secure equipment. Just to give an example, if you unplug a mouse from a secure system, it'll alert the IT department that manages the security, and it'll block that system. And then you got to go jump through hoops to get that system back up and going. Um, well, anyway, something like that happened to a supervisor's system where I was working at, and it was me and a black female that worked in this area, and it was also three other white people, and they basically looked at me and thought I had something to do with it. And I don't know, it really pissed me off because they accused me before even knowing what happened. And I don't know. That was just one issue. They just automatically assumed that I did it, and they even told one of my coworkers, one of my white coworkers, that they suspected it was me, and then eventually they found out it was I don't know, a short or something with whatever happened to cause that issue on the system. I don't know. It's just that was just one issue that happened with me, I would say. Hello?
So we still here. We still here.
Oh, okay. Okay. Um, and like I said, I'm sorry, I'm kind of nervous. I don't be on lives like this.
Hey,
No, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. So the
hey,
last
what's up
question,
here?
last question is, what advice would you give to younger black males entering into the industry?
It will go back to what I said a little earlier. Start studying up to get those certifications. Certifications are gold, I would say, in this industry. Um, the more you have, the I don't know, the better it looks better. I know, especially in the government sector, it looks better than having a bachelor's degree. And I have a bachelor's degree, but they look at those certs more, worth more because you have to actually know the material in order to pass those tests. Um, so I would recommend young guys to get into those certifications, and anything I could do to help. I have a lot of training material. Um, so if I mean you can hit me up or whatever. I don't mind. I'm always looking to help anybody that's up and coming in IT because it's kind of I would say my passion turned into a passion, especially in the Linux side and that's just one thing I would say focus on right now.
Thank you.
All right. Let's get to the chat because we only got about 40 minutes left. So Tony Lackey asks, maybe this has been answered already, but what news outlets do you read to stay current with tech info? I read everything. If you look at some of our dockets under our Hangouts, you'll see all the sites that we go to. So um, that's definitely the reference if that's what you're looking for. Christian, you have anything you want to add?
For IT stuff, I usually hit up Spiceworks. It's my main go-to
Spiceworks is good.
for answers and like stuff that's just going on.
Hmm.
In fact, I'm actually a member of Spiceworks here in Oklahoma.
Hmm.
Give it, Dickie. What you got?
To keep up with anything IT, I always use the app on my phone. To be honest, that's it's
Assistant?
yeah, that Google Assistant. It always I put in my I put in my filters, and it gives me all the news based on my filters. So that's how I kind of keep up with it.
Hang on
You,
just
you
a
know,
second.
you know what's interesting about that question is one of the things I notice about pale-faced people is that they feel that if you can't answer the question off the top of your head, then you just don't know it. Whereas with them, they'll go Google what they want to know, right? They'll go to Microsoft TechNet and they'll go get the answers for any Windows solutions or problems and stuff like that. But when it comes to you, you should know this off the top of your head. And I always find that to be very interesting and quite disingenuous, if anything else. Um, for example, I was working at a place before, and me and my buddy, he's from the Middle East, he's from Syria, and we came back from lunch, and these guys in the operations center was basically asking him all these questions from Cisco exam from the CCNA. They got the questions from Google, so they knew the answers. However, they were firing off these questions to him as if he's supposed to know it, even though he did know the answers to them because he had already did the studying. He does. He and I used to study after work, but he knew all the answers. He knew the majority of the answers, but they were trying to pigeonhole him to make it seem like he didn't know what he was doing. Whereas for them, they had already got the answers from Google. So that type of interaction of politics in the office always plays out. When it comes to references. So let me see what else is going on in the chat. Elston says he runs Ubuntu on Windows 10. Blasphemous, if you ask me. Richard says, I got a felony too. I know it's going to be a problem, but I hope to work around it somehow. You can actually get that new Corey reform under Obama actually can get your felony expunged from your record. You just got to get somebody to write up a document or a letter saying that this is impacting my ability to find employment, and I've been a good citizen, a model citizen for the last couple of years. So that should be well taken care of. I know in Massachusetts they can't employers can't see your criminal record anyways. It's actually blank and known to them. So if there was something there, they wouldn't be able to see it unless it's a violent offense or unless you're a registered sex offender. Outside of that, they don't even see that. It just shows up as blank. Unless you're gonna go apply for the federal government, then they say, hey, we can see everything on your record. One Speed says, Mike, shoot me an email for your logo contest if still on. Keep up the amazing work. Thank you. See anything else in here? Richard says we should get a heads up in IT infrastructure in Africa. That's my exit plan. So here's the deal about Africa and IT infrastructure. We're moving into, we just talked about this a few minutes ago, blockchain and serverless computing. IT infrastructure in Africa is almost not so much as null and void, but it's not really as important, right? They already have 5G, so the towers are up out there. They just need the phones, right? Because the phones are not available yet. What Africa needs is software development, app developers, people who can write code for for the block, to put serverless computing into order. Serverless computing makes it much easier for them to deploy and launch systems because it's all virtual now. You have VMware, you have Hyper-V, you have cloud. That's where that's going. I don't see, when you say IT infrastructure, I'm thinking routers, switches, servers, data center. That's a dead concept now. Nobody really does that anymore. Very rarely do companies really move in that realm. Look at Netflix. Netflix used to run their own entire environment, and then they put their infrastructure on AWS. Amazon already has Prime, so they're running their infrastructure on their competition's infrastructure. If that makes any sense to you.
They couldn't hold what's his name? Luke Cage. They had to give that up.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, that's different. But the point that I'm making is that we're moving into an environment where you don't necessarily need hardware to that extent. Now you have something called OpenStack, and then you have something they just had a few weeks ago for a conference, OpenStack Open Infrastructure. So that's what they've renamed it to now. So now that you have open infrastructure and you have OpenStack as the operating system, and then you have blockchain, and then you have the serverless computing side, microservices, which is basically containerized computing, which is very similar to blockchain because that containerized computer is immutable. So if there are any changes to that container or that microservice, then it's null and void. It doesn't work anymore. Just like on the blockchain, it's immutable. Information traveling on that blockchain is immutable. So therefore, it's not. If it's tampered with, then it's no longer usable. So we're moving into that sort of environment. The days of buying these big Dell servers, 5U, 4U, base rack systems and 1U rack systems and stuff like that, storage area networks and loading it up with, terabytes of hard drives. It's almost null and void now. The last place I worked at didn't even have phones. They didn't even have voice over IP. Everybody had their corporate-based phone. They just had an iPhone or Android, and corporate subsidized it. So that's where I see the market going.
Yeah, that's exactly what DigitalOcean does with the cloud computing.
Yep, I know I actually know the head of security over there. He and I was we had lunch early this year.
Wow.
Yeah, I know him very well. Um, Let me look at the chat. Elkston says, Mike, but don't you think they will want more local data centers in Africa to host cloud hardware? No, you don't really need it. We covered an article a few weeks back about Microsoft creating a new data center, or I shouldn't say new data center concept, but they put server computers inside this sort of submersible container, and they dropped it in the ocean, and then it had a large sea cable connected to it, so they can launch servers in a matter of minutes. They can just drop it inside of the ocean, and they don't have to worry about where earthquakes or anything like that. It just sits in water, and the temperature of the water actually cools the server itself, or the mini server farm that it's housed in. So that's the sort of concepts that's being launched now in Africa. One of the concepts I seen that they were doing was they were taking some of the the servers from a data center, and they would the container, like a shipping container, and they would drop it into the sand, into the desert, and then just put the sand back on top of it, because because it's 120 degrees on the ground, but beneath the surface it's actually cold. And plus, you need power in order to run a data center. And Africa doesn't have any power as it is. That's why. What's this guy's name? If one of you guys can mute up, please. That's why Akon actually put up solar panels in Africa, because there was no grid available. So he had to create his own grid in order to create enough power to get lights on the road and into some of these villages. There's just not enough power available in Africa. I only know a few not a few data centers, but a few. Uh, Most of the power that's being developed in Africa is through hydroelectric. So your Nile River is actually creating power through dams. But outside of that, there aren't any real nuclear facilities to speak of that's going to provide all the power that you need to create a data center that's going to latch onto. So you're going to have to come up with alternative methods for data centers. Um, Richard asks, "What's your thoughts on Africa software-wise? Africa needs software. It needs coders. I mean, we covered an article about this on Monday that they're teaching kids how to code because they need coders. This is a long-term strategy for them. They're thinking about the long-term effect. The next 20 years. So you're going to need to learn Python. You're going to need to learn Bash, C++, Java, because Android actually runs on Java. Any of you gentlemen have anything you want to add?
Not right now. I was going to say we pretty much all going to need coders in the future. If we
Yeah.
put a lot of money into it, get Africa pushed up, get enough people coding.
Mhm. One way I think that you can create data centers, and I think AMD has I forget the name of the technology that they've developed. I think it's open hardware.
Yeah.
It's open hardware, right?
Yep.
Right. So you're talking about taking these Snapdragon processors from Qualcomm and actually use them in the data center fashion, because you don't really need a whole lot of power to drive some of these applications because of serverless computing. It makes it that much easier. So you can have, I mean, if you were a company, Google, Facebook, they all design their stuff in house. All their hardware and stuff is designed in house. Probably where all their money goes. You can have Snapdragon processors doing most of your core OS work, and then you can have Radeon and NVIDIA processors um, doing a lot of your computational math because they just have more shader cores. Your shader core processing units are actually pretty efficient um, at doing math, high level math, as opposed to a Pentium processor or x86 processor. They're not all that great.
Can I ask the panel a question?
Right?
Uh, what type of computers you guys rolling with? I know you got your Chromebook. You got anything else over there, Mike?
Me?
Yeah.
No, I dumped everything else. I have nothing else.
Keep it techie. What you got?
I got a Toshiba laptop, and then I got a custom build server. So
What processor and stuff you got in there?
it's an AMD processor, quad core, I believe. It's a server. It's a server processor.
That Optitron. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Where did Lionel go?
He dumped off a while back.
Okay.
I'll say maybe 20 minutes ago.
Okay.
Um, I got 1700 Ryzen, 64 gigs, gigabyte motherboard, build wife, Ryzen 1600, 32 gigs RAM, gigabyte motherboard. I got like two Supermicro servers I need to get hooked back up. One I'm gonna put FreeNAS on, and the other one I'm gonna put either I'm gonna put a server on it and play with Hyper-V, or set up a VMware server.
Yeah, check out Proxmox. It's a open source
Yeah,
virtual. Yeah.
a couple of guys at my job told me to look at that too.
Yeah.
I would have thought there would have been more questions in the chat, but I guess not. I really don't want to end it too early because I know a lot of people were waiting for this, but they have not shown up for this.
What do you guys do for fun? Y'all play video games?
I used to be a first-person shooter. I don't do that anymore. you know, work life has actually taken over that. So, but I'm getting back into it. I did buy some stuff from Black Friday last year, such as a Corsair micro ATX tower that's good for water cooling and SLI crossfire motherboard capability. So I was waiting for the new sockets for the AMD to come out for the micro ATX, but I haven't seen anything available as of yet. So,
Which case did you get?
all for the Corsair. The Corsair is the Obsidian Series 350D. I'll drop it in the chat.
Okay.
No, not Obsidian, the YouTuber, the technology chassis. So
Micro ATX?
yeah.
See, that's what I usually rock with is the micro ATX, but I kept waiting and waiting. One of my others, I had a Xeon processor, and it like blew up. I needed her to get something so I can do my work,
Mhm.
and they didn't have a micro ATX at the time. They come off the ATX one first for all the enthusiasts who want to SLI everything, and then go ahead and get the micro ATX and then the ITX. Cool.
Oh,
And
Richard X. I'm sorry. Will you finish?
yeah, I'm finished. I was about to read off Richard's question.
Yeah. Thoughts on machine learning? I think you should learn it. Especially if you're into data science. Data science is actually goes hand in hand with machine learning. And machine learning is pretty turnkey right now. You can actually go to GitHub and actually find a good machine learning platform to actually download. It's usually free. So
How would you go about learning it? Would you just find like a online server to get set up, or would you actually like build up a computer, set up everything that you need?
say that one more time.
How would you go about learning machine learning? Would you actually build up a server, set everything up that you need on that, or is there like an online answer for learning machine language?
Download the white paper. I think the white paper is probably the first place you want to go to for whatever it is that you're trying to do. The white papers are usually pretty good at giving you the not the reference, but the good overview, high level overview of what you're getting yourself into. I know there's a lot of bugs in some of these machine learning platforms because the development of it gets abandoned or it doesn't get supported after a certain version. So, but uh, machine learning leads into AI anyway. So the more information you give it, the more knowledgeable it becomes.
And just if I could put some input, Python, learn to use some Python.
Yeah, for machine learning. Yeah.
Yep, for machine learning, Python.
Mhm.
Keep it taking. Do you say white papers or man papers or man pages?
Man pages.
Okay, all right. I just want to know.
You said SLI kind of petered out.
Yeah, man, look how powerful one video card is. Like, how much power do you really need?
Depends on the size of the monitor that you have. I mean, some of these guys are rocking 80-inch, 72-inch TVs as a monitor now. So
True. I can barely afford one video card now.
Richard asks, y'all ever think about using the channel to funnel into teaching groups of us, similar to what Sub Zero is doing? No. So what Sub Zero is doing, he's running his own academy. We're not really, we're not an academy. We're more of a co-op. We're an intellectual co-op. And in order for this channel to function, people have to bring something to the table. What Sub Zero is doing, he's running more of a boot camp type of deal. That's not something I have any interest in because not all of us, every one person on this hangout doesn't know every little thing, right? So, in order for this channel to function, people have to actually be knowledgeable in certain areas. Like, for example, Complex is actually knowledgeable in uh, micro transportation and things of that nature, right? I don't know really a whole lot about it, and especially cannabis as well. He's very efficient in those areas. So I rely on him. I don't actually have to do a Google search. I just ask him, and he pretty much knows the answer to that. Same thing with Lionel. I know enough about blockchain to survive in the workplace, but if I want to know something in particular, I'll ask him. So Plus, I don't see doing this for profit. I don't like the idea of doing things for money, especially after with what's been happening in these mean YouTube streets in the manosphere the last few months. People being exposed for who their wife is and things of that nature. I don't need anybody trying to dox me because they didn't feel like they got 100% of their contribution met, right? So
Yeah, I like this format that we got right here. When Jack Charles shows up, he'll ask a couple of questions I don't even think about, and I have to come up with an answer for it.
mhm.
I like this. I like this type of discussion of bouncing off of each other.
Right, right. Complex thought drives innovation. So in order for you to innovate, you have to have complex thought first. What Sub Zero does is that it's actually pretty good, but it's not something that we're interested in. This requires more intellectual contribution, so that's why we don't have a PayPal or a Patreon set up because we're not looking for that. You have to actually bring something to the table in order to be a contributor, and those who can't contribute, should just listen and not be disruptive. That's how we kind of float.
And to be honest, that's kind of the vibe I got. That's why I kind of, try not to, hop in or try to ask y'all or anything. I mean, I'm mainly learning. You guys bring a lot to the table as far as, me just listening, so I learn a lot just by listening. I don't have to be, part of it or anything. I just like to listen, to be honest.
Hmm.
You
Hey, what's going on, Information Man? What's going on, Dollar Will? Um, yeah, I mean, I have a lot of ideas. I know myself had discussed this offline, but you're going to see some good stuff coming out of BBT in the next quarter or so. So going into January, going into March, going into June, you're going to see some pretty interesting stuff come out of it. That's going to be different than what you see on other platforms. Uh, it's going to be way more interactive and less us dry, less of us talking, right? It's going to be more outreach going on and things of that nature. I mean, today was more of an outreach than anything else. So that's why we had it. But yeah, I think we will shut it down now. But we'll be back tomorrow though. Tomorrow I'm going to host a hangout for the top 10 IT certifications and resources that go with it.
Okay.
Yep, for 2019. So
All right. Man, I appreciate all the questions and the comments.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys letting me come on.
Appreciate you jumping on.
yeah. All right. See you all tomorrow. Thank you all for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
All right.
And we're out.